Hey guys, I am so excited to be creating this video because I actually think that this is my first recipe video ever. I don't even remember making a short video with a recipe, so here we are. I think the reason is because I'm not a chef, but I think a lot of you guys will relate with me. I'm definitely a very unconventional, make things work, don't follow recipes kind of cook, and I'm sure a lot of you are that way too, and you'll enjoy some of my tips and my mistakes. But don't worry, I'm only going to teach you my tried and true recipes that I kind of have mastered. Quite a few years ago, I decided that I'm going to start mastering some recipes. It was after I had a little bit of a mental breakdown when I was trying to eat Ancestral, not spend hours and hours in the kitchen because I honestly don't really enjoy cooking and baking, make meals on kind of a tight budget, and on top of all that, try to be sustainable with the ingredients I buy. That's a lot of factors to think about, and it was kind of driving my brain insane. But fortunately, some of those go hand in hand, especially eating Ancestral, and food corporations don't want you to know that. Eating Ancestral is buying local, real foods that don't come in plastic normally. The world and big food corporations and big pharma wants us to think that eating lab-made meats and lab-made weird food is the healthiest thing for us, like GMO grains and seeds. If you're with me in my health beliefs, you know that that's not the right way to go. So luckily, actually, buying real food locally can be affordable. It is the healthiest way and it is sustainable. Is it convenient? That's where I come in to try and let you know what some of the more easy, doable, faster recipes are that help with this. Because I'll be honest, not everyone has the time to be a homesteader, stay-at-home wifey. Where I live is really hot and I don't want to spend hours and hours in the kitchen or outside farming. So that's why I'm going to start with my granola because I've been making this for years. I also make my own trail mix and kind of make this into a granola bar sometimes. And one of the best parts about it is how flexible it is, so you can kind of use some fruit that might be going bad soon, whatever's in the pantry that you just want to use up, kind of everything but the kitchen sink mentality. It is convenient because it's quick. Keep it in the freezer because where I live is very humid, so it will not stay crunchy if it's left out. Keeping it in the freezer will keep it good for a really long time, so it is convenient and you can make a bunch at once and have it on hand. It's sustainable because most of the ingredients can actually be purchased in the bulk section at a grocery store. And when I decided I wanted to start eating more sustainably, that's something I really wanted to utilize is the bulk section. Where I live, groceries is so expensive, so a lot of it shop at Costco. That is still way more sustainable than buying little bags. Little side tangent, last time I did a beach cleanup, I just kept finding single-use plastic packets, especially the little top plastic piece you pull off to get into that little bag. Those are everywhere, especially because little kids are just stripping them off, tossing them away, or they get blown out of the trash can. Buying bulk from Costco is still the better option. I have some items that I do buy in bulk here, but I do also have some items that I buy at Costco. First, we are gonna set the oven to 350 degrees, and while it's preheating, we're gonna melt our oil. If you live in a cold area, you need to put coconut oil to make it liquid. I'm gonna use some of the butter I buy from a farm locally. This looks like it'll be about a half cup. We'll see later. You might think that I'm crazy for using butter in this recipe instead of coconut oil, or you can also use avocado oil for maybe less calories, but eating Ancestral typically means eating a lot of butter. If you think I'm crazy, look up Butter Moms and Butter Talk. If you're buying the right, real, unprocessed butter, it's so good for you. It does lead me to this being the first optional ingredient, so you can opt for something more affordable, which buying coconut oil in bulk can be quite a bit cheaper than buying good natural butter. Also, it would switch up the flavor, so you can choose what you like best. And if this is for an occasion, if you're bringing this maybe to a brunch or to friends, then you might want to use the butter because it's so good. It's really gonna impress them. While that's melting and preheating, I want to show you guys some of my ingredients options for the fruit part of the granola. Okay, so here I have some freeze-dried strawberries. I love freeze-dried fruits in this granola because it definitely adds a lot of crunch, and that is why I make granola in the first place. I want to add crunch to my yogurt or fruit bowl or a smoothie bowl. Here is some freeze-dried apple. Again, great crunch. The raisins, I don't really like regular raisins, but golden raisins are so good, but any type of raisin would be great. This looks gross, but it is actually a dried apple banana. That's actually from Trader Joe's. I snagged it from the mainland. 2 options of coconut. I actually like the coconut flakes more because they are more crunchy. Again, I love crunch. But you can use these also from Trader Joe's, but they're just a little bit more chewy. I love apricots. You do have to chop those probably into halves or quarters. Dates are great too, but are kind of funny with the texture, but so good for you. And then we have mango here. Since I do really have some of my favorite recipes that I know are affordable and sustainable and healthy, I do like to have these options so I can switch them up and not get sick of these recipes. So if you want to go with a more tropical granola, then you could go with the coconut, maybe do coconut oil instead of butter, the mango, and maybe the apple banana. If you want to go with a more mountainy, you could do the apricots, the apples. You could do a berry medley, you could do strawberries or even freeze-dried blueberries in there too. This might affect if you do want to add cinnamon to the recipe, which I will later. All these items can be bought at the bulk section or at Costco. I think I'm going to go with the more mountainy fruit options plus the raisins. Okay, so with eating Ancestral, that typically means no seeds or nuts, which was very difficult for me, especially when I want that crunch. So that's why I'm adding all these crunch tips. A lot of granola recipes, or like all of them online, are gonna have seeds and nuts, and that's what we're trying to avoid, or nut butter. I believe taking out seeds and nuts from my diet is one of the leading reasons that switching to Ancestral cured my bloating. They are very not digestible. You can opt to soak nuts to make them better and add them to this recipe, but I'm trying to just avoid them altogether. They really are tough on your stomach. When you really deep dive into my health beliefs and that of many Ancestral followers, you'll read a lot about how nuts and seeds really aren't good for you. Before I put these away, quick little shout out to my little silicone baggies. I do really like to make my own trail mix, again, because you can just use whatever's in there. It's really hard to find trail mix without seeds and nuts. So usually I would just get one of these bags, and I'm probably just gonna put these all in a bag, and it's gonna be a new little snack bag. It's not really a trail mix, but I will add chocolate chips, and the coconut flakes really make it a treat, and it's a really good, sustainable, healthy, affordable snack on the go. And of course it has that convenience factor as well. Thinking of points about dried fruit. Last thing is dried fruit really, oven's ready. Probably the butter too. It's not completely melted, the butter, chunk left, but it's obviously gonna melt in there while I speak. But dried fruit really has been my saving grace for this new health belief, because I do like convenient to-go snacks just because I'm pretty busy. It was hard to say no to all the processed junk that comes in little single-use bags. Putting a bunch of dried fruit before I run out the door into one of those bags has been such a lifesaver, and my body is thanking me and getting so many nutrients that we are missing from those fruits. Here I have a big pan with my silicone mats that I always use. When I was first years ago looking at all the recipes, they say to put everything in a bowl and stir it up, but I'm crazy psycho about dishes. The less dishes you have, the less water you use, which is the more money you save and the more sustainable you are. So I actually just throw everything right in the pan and kind of just stir it up right here. Before I just have at it and dump everything in here so we can just fast forward, I do want to tell you about the other options you have in this recipe. I normally use maple syrup for the sweetener. It is a cup of maple syrup, which is a lot, but ancestral belief is that honey and maple syrup and agave syrup are not bad for you. If you're getting your sugars from your fruit and honey and this stuff, our bodies can handle so much. It knows what to do with this sugar. But if you really are not supposed to have much sugar, if you're diabetic, then totally just cut the sweetness. But it's a cup of maple syrup or honey or agave syrup, and I will say that honey is probably the most nutritious but the most expensive, especially because I get my honey from a local farm. They just fill up my jar every few weeks, and I go through this so much. I drink it in my cacao latte every day. I put honey on a lot of things, so I switch it up with my granola. I'm talking real unprocessed maple syrup, so this can also be pricey as well. If you can't afford a whole cup of maple syrup, then I would opt for agave. That is actually the cheapest. There's unprocessed healthy versions. Your body knows what to do with it. I just think it's not as yummy as the maple syrup. Again, I'm going to be adding cinnamon, which is optional. You can say no to the cinnamon, but there's so many health benefits to cinnamon. And then one last disclosure is there is one part of this recipe that maybe some would say is not the healthiest, and it's the oats. Some people are canceling oats altogether. I don't blame them, because oats in the US are so overly processed, so GMO. And if you're getting Quaker or cheap brands, they are doused in glyphosate, which is so bad for you. Oats are great to just cancel out of your diet, or to switch to the completely unprocessed steel cut oats and cook them on the stove top for hours. It's not that long, especially if you use a pressure cooker. It's much healthier for you. But for my little exception, I do get Coach's Oats at Costco because they're so affordable. Extra organic according to the bag, so there's no glyphosate. They are cracked and toasted steel cut, so rolled oats and instant oats are really bad for you. Because they cook so quickly is because they are so processed and your body honestly doesn't even register them as food. Technically better to use absolute steel cut unprocessed oats. This is the next best thing, and I'm an imperfect person, so this is what I'm using, especially for the budget. Let's have at it. This is looking so good. Just a note that I do want all of the ingredients touching. It's nice that when it is done, it kind of breaks into pieces, kind of like little granola bar triangles. I guess technically you could try to not break them up much, so you could make somewhat of a granola bar, but I'm not gonna package it in a small plastic bag for to-go use, so sometimes I just break it into bigger pieces so that I can put it in one of these little baggies for a to-go snack. But normally I'm just crushing it all up into like pretty small pieces, putting it in, I always use like reused plastic bags like this from other food items. And I stick that in the freezer and it's just ready to go for my acai bowls and all that. If you guys noticed that I have really cute jars, why buy jars when you can just go thrift them, or you can buy a food item that comes in a jar and reuse that, like marinara sauce or artichoke hearts or jalapenos. And if you were a little bit concerned about how much sugar is in here, just remember that the granola you're buying at the store has the same amount of sugar, if not more, and the oil. Years ago when I started making my own granola, there were no options at the store that didn't have seed oils, which are so bad for your health. And the first ingredient would be canola oil right there on the bag. Years later, still making my own granola, I do see some granola at the store without seed oils. You never find granola bars without seed oils. And if you look at the price tag, it's nuts. Actually, pun intended, there is always nuts in them. And they do come in small bags, which is less sustainable. So I am still making my own granola, and as you could see just then, it is very quick and easy. Remember, the more you stir it up, the better results you'll have. We are sticking this in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes. And I am so excited. Okay, so normally I would wait for this to completely cool off actually in the oven, because that kind of works as a dehydrator, but I really want some right now, so I'm gonna take a little bit and then put it back in the oven to cool off. I wish you guys could smell this right now. This is incredible. My whole kitchen right now smells insane. So it will crisp up and all stick together when it cools down. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you loved it, and I cannot wait to make more recipe videos, especially my tortilla recipe. It's gonna be insane.